Well, it's Friday. It must be time for live stream. Yes, it really is. We're glad to have you. We are coming to you live from our theater in Hendersonville, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville, where we'll be doing the Huckabee Show this weekend, which I hope, if you're not here with a ticket in your hands to see it live, you will at least, for sure, be watching on television. As always, joining me, Pam Case, senior producer for the Huckabee Show. She's going to be reading the questions that you send in, which I hope you get started right away. Send the questions in the chat. Be sure to send a super chat for a little more visibility. Moderators are standing by. They're watching the chat for all the questions. They'll try to make sure as many of them as possible get to us so that we can answer them. Now, we always like to begin by asking you to do some things that will help you and help us. It'll help both of us. Subscribe to the channel. Why? Because that way we can let you know when we're going to be on air. You hit that notification bell, that's what it sounds like, and we'll notify you, hey, live stream's coming up. We welcome your comments. We really actually read them. But then be sure to like us. Like us. That's so social media, isn't it?
It is 2022,
it's weird
isn't it?
for me because I grew up when you would send these little notes across the classroom, you know, ask Angela if she likes me.
Yes or no.
Yeah,
just mark
that's right. And that's kind of what social media has become. It's like the third grade all grown up. But like us and then share us. That means send it out to all of the people who are on your social media list for reasons that make sense to no one, I'm sure. Well, we've got a lot of topics we're going to be covering today, like CNN actually slamming the Biden administration. We may have to get the defibrillators out for that one. That's going to be a big one. Kamala Harris has got a new word of the day, impact. We'll find out what that means because she obviously does not know. And speaking of not knowing, well, Karine, the White House press secretary, she's back. And you know what? After all these weeks, she still doesn't know anything. That's her story. And by golly, she's sticking to it. We always like to pull out a comment from the week before. Here's our favorite comment from last week's live stream. It comes from James Williams, who says this, and I quote, Biden quarantined in the White House. Wouldn't someplace like Fort Leavenworth or Guantanamo Bay be better for America? Good quote of the week. Thank you very much. We also have a question of the week that we like to throw at you and ask you to respond during our live stream, and we'll share some of the results. Here's the question of the day. Do you believe that Joe and Hunter Biden will be properly held accountable for the business dealings they've had with China, Russia, and Ukraine? Be sure to leave your answers in the chat as well as in the comments section below. All right, let's get underway. Beginning with Joe Biden. Joe seems a little unhappy in this screaming video that he makes, but watch how many times he blinks and ask yourself, could you go this long without ever blinking your eyes?
You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-cop. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-American. Donald Trump lacked the courage to act. The brave women and men in blue all across this nation should never forget that.
Man, I don't know if he's got dry eye syndrome or what, but he never blinked his eyes in that whole thing. It's unreal.
That's scary, too. It's scary eyes.
It is scary because he's like staring at, like, please don't blink. If you do, you won't be able to read the teleprompter. I know I can't go that long without blinking.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was drugged. Maybe. I don't know. I just know that poor Joe, he stands up there yelling at his teleprompter. I'm not sure who he's yelling at, if he's yelling at you and me, if he's yelling at some imaginary person. You know, the person he shakes hands with as soon as he walks away from the podium, turns around and shakes hands to the ghost. You've seen that several times. He's not just once, but several times. He'll finish the podium and he turns around. There must be something on his card that says, shake hands with the people behind you. And so he turns around and sticks his hand out. Of course, there's no one there. And then he finally looks around and then he walks off. It's pretty interesting.
Might be something with his eyes.
Could be. Now this time we don't know how many times he blinks because he's got sunglasses on, but I guess it's not just his eyes that are having trouble adjusting. So is his mouth and his brain as he tries to explain the medication that he was given when he was diagnosed with COVID.
Millions of Americans have used Paxlovid, excuse me, Paxlovid. I tell you what, I think I used it. No, Paxlovid, including me.
Somebody must have whispered, it's Paxlovid. I thought he was going to end up saying, you know, that stuff they gave me, X-Lax. That's what it was. That would have been the most appropriate thing. But if they did, we'd probably still have the same speech.
Yes, but the addition of the sunglasses, maybe a great idea for the eye thing.
Send him outside. We can justify wearing sunglasses, and we'll never see how many times he doesn't blink. This has been a tough week for America economically, and I say that because, like it or not, folks, by all definitions, we are in a recession. And everybody understands that. Well, almost everybody. There's one person who doesn't seem to.
Mr. President, we're getting GDP numbers on Thursday. How worried should Americans be that we could be in a recession?
We're not going to be in a recession.
No, we're not in a recession. Man, we're doing so good, I don't know how we're going to keep up with it. We're all living the dream. That's what it is. We love these high gas prices. We love going to the stores and seeing empty shelves, and what we do find we're paying twice for. Yes, sir. We're not in any recession. Not on your life. We are most certainly not. I'll tell you, he may be right, because when the mainstream media starts saying something, I usually think they must be lying. And here's what they think about a recession.
Thursday, that first reading of second quarter GDP, there's a possibility this is a negative number. 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth.
The definition of a recession is a decline in output for 2 consecutive quarters, or about 6 months.
A recession is just 2 consecutive quarters of economic decline.
When we talk about the possibility of a recession, what is a recession? A recession is 2 consecutive quarters.
2 consecutive quarters.
2 consecutive quarters. 2 consecutive quarters of declining GDP.
Because, as you know, it's 2 consecutive quarters.
Now, what was interesting about that was that not one of those clips came from Fox or Newsmax. Every single one of them from either CNN or MSNBC. All of whom, 100% agreement that when you have 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, you're in a recession. That has been the economic standard. It's been the way people have looked at things. It didn't matter whether they were Democrat or Republican. It was just a sort of a given economically. The only people who don't believe that, they used to believe it, but they don't anymore because they're running the show, people at the White House. Brian Deese, who's the economic advisor, he seems to think what Joe thinks.
2 negative quarters of GDP growth is not the technical definition of recession. It's not the definition that economists have traditionally relied on.
Well, see, that's just an outright lie. Even he, as you saw, we put it up there on the screen, in 2008 said exactly what everybody else is saying. 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth is a recession. But somehow it is not in his world. And I find it interesting that even the panel on CNN, normally they would do, they would slice their own wrist on air to show their love and fealty to Joe Biden. Here's what they had to say about this being a recession.
Chris Cillizza, inflation affects every American directly. The Biden administration is trying to point out the definition of a recession is nuanced. But I got to tell you, I struggle with this. I get that why they want to do it from a political perspective, but you can't fake this.
No, I was laughing to myself with the "in my view" thing that Caitlin highlighted, because it's like, well, in my view, I should be drafted into the NBA. Like the NBA executives didn't agree with that.
I would make millions of dollars.
Right. Like it doesn't really matter what you
See, I kind of like that whole approach.
Yeah.
Because Chris Cillizza was essentially saying, I can just imagine it, and it's okay.
Yeah.
That's how we're living these world today. It's really insane. Got some questions for us?
Absolutely, we do. And I've got to mention this, too, because we have one of our viewers today says, and I think he's Amazing 773, says, finally caught a live stream because I got the notice. Aha.
There you go.
So, there you go. All right, let's start with this one. What can we do to stop this spending spree? That's coming to us today, Governor, from Helen Walker. Well,
elect different people to Congress who won't vote for this nonsense. Look, I even give Democrats credit. They think they're doing something, and frankly, a lot of them genuinely think that the right thing to do is to spend a bunch of government money, even if you have to borrow it, which they do, in order to spend it. Somehow they believe that that will magically fix the economy. But that's like saying that during the days of George Washington, medical practice at the time said that if you had a severe infection or that if you were really sick, they needed to drain blood out of you. It was called bloodletting. They'd put leeches on you. And they would pull blood out of you because they thought that the illness that you had was in the blood. So let out some more blood. Historians believe George Washington didn't die of his illness. He died because he bled to death. They kept saying, more leeches, put more leeches on George. Let some more blood out. And he finally bled to death. Yeah. I believe the Democrats run that same kind of scenario when it comes to the economy. They think if we just keep spending money and pouring it out, even if we don't have it, which we don't, and we're $31 trillion in debt, don't worry. Just keep spending that money. Doesn't matter where it gets spent. Of course, it does to Democrats. They want to spend on the most ridiculous left-wing things like the Green New Deal. But it does not help the economy. Speaking about not helping the economy, our vice president, it's amazing to watch. And we mentioned a week or so ago that her speechwriter quit, which, having watched her do speeches for the past several months, you wondered, did she have one? And why did that person get paid? Because they obviously weren't writing stuff that anybody could understand. Maybe she's on her own now, but the speeches aren't any better. Watch.
And the act of the United States Supreme Court to take away a constitutional right that has been recognized from the people of America will impact a lot of people and differently in some situations. And we need to be responsive to these issues and also lift up the voices of all people who will be impacted in the way that they will be impacted. So that's why we are convened today. And I will add a couple of points in terms of the direct impact that we anticipate there will be from the Dobbs decision.
I kind of get the impression that they don't write a speech. They hand her a card with only one word. This week it was impact. And she walks out and says that word every 4 or 5 seconds. And somehow that's supposed to make sense to the rest of us. But it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to anybody.
More word salad. That's what it is.
Chopped
word salad. Chopped word salad. Man, they're going to have to find some dressing for that.
My gosh.
Just a little bit.
What have we got?
All right. Billy Jones is reaching out today, Gov, and says next week the Democrats are voting on their ideal of the energy bill, which will pay people $7,000 to buy an electric vehicle. Governor Huckabee, what do you think about that, and how much will that cost the American taxpayer in our country?
It'll cost the American taxpayer exactly $7,000 every time they shell out a check to give people $7,000 to buy an electric car. Because the electric car, even with $7,000 of somebody else's money in your pocket, is still going to cost significantly more than a conventional vehicle. So unless you were already going to buy an electrical car, chances are this isn't going to persuade you. But if you're rich enough to buy the electric car, you'll probably go down to the dealership and buy it and say to all those suckers out there who can barely afford their 20-year-old clunker, thank you for the $7,000. You still drive the clunker. I've got a brand new electric car that you help pay for. That's just crazy.
Makes no sense, Gov. All right, got to remind everybody to please smash that like button. Like us today, and of course, we'd like you to always remember to ring that notification bell, because we want you to be notified whenever we are on the air, and you've got plenty of time still to participate in our chat today, just like this one from Janice Lohman. Question: how do we stop the communists in Seattle when our votes don't count? In latest ballots, only 2 Republicans on the ticket in all races there.
In Washington State or in Seattle?
In Seattle.
In Seattle. Yeah, that's not a big surprise. King County is so out of touch with the rest of the state of Washington. Sometimes if I have a speech or some event I've got to do in the state of Washington, I always ask, is this in the People's Republic of Seattle, Or is this in the sane part of Washington State, Spokane and other areas where really delightful people, common sense, they live life like most of us do. And then you get to King County, the Seattle area, and you think, what foreign country did I land in? It's just truly bizarre. But I would say this, do not get discouraged. Keep voting. Keep voting. Never, ever fall to that nonsense of saying, well, it just doesn't matter, I won't vote. It always matters. And the one sure way that we get defeated and we turn the country over to the crazies is that we all just quit voting. We change things when we all vote without exception, no matter how hard it is to get to the polls, whether it's rain, sleet, snow, or a riot started by Democrats, no matter what it is, we go vote. Got to do it.
Nancy Hickman responded too about the discussion we were having about the electric cars. Shouldn't they just give out an electric car to the people? How about that idea?
Why not? Why not give an electric car? Why not give a completely automated home to every American? Where does this stop? I mean, the ultimate issue here is, where in the Constitution does the federal government of the United States have the right, much less the responsibility, to give anybody anything that they did not work for? I mean, that's really the question. And you're doing it with other people's money. I want to make very clear, look, I believe in tithing, I always have, taught my children to tithe to the church. I think that's the fundamental, that's the bare minimum. Then we give offerings over and above the tithe. But folks, if I give my money, it's charity. But if I keep my money and I reach into your pocket and take your money and give it away, that's theft. That's not charity. I'm not being a charitable person when I spend somebody else's money. Only charity when I give what costs me something. So when these politicians talk about what they're going to give the American people, they're not giving the American people anything. They get a salary, they get full health benefits and a retirement plan, and it ain't coming out of their pockets, but out of yours. And that is not charity. I want to go to the White House. Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, has had quite the week. And several things. First of all, she believes that instead of Joe Biden helping create a recession, why, somehow he's taken his magic wand and he's turned the economy on. Watch.
When you look at the economy, how he was able to turn it back on when he walked in, businesses were shut down, schools were shut down.
I missed that. Anyway, she said Biden was able to turn the economy back on when he took office. Really? How many of you out there watching this live stream today think, man, we were really struggling until Joe got sworn in, and since then, it's like Ethel Merman waking me up every morning, singing everything's coming up roses. Not sure that's the way most of us look at it. By the way, when she was asked about what's causing inflation and the legislation Congress has put forward, this is her answer.
Wondering where the White House sought assurances that the tenets of that legislation would in fact lower inflation.
I mean, I'm not gonna get into specifics or into negotiations.
No, I'm sure she's not going to get into specifics or negotiation because she has no specifics. She's got nothing to negotiate with. If you negotiate, you have to have something to bring to the table. She got nothing, okay? She's got nothing to bring to the table. She also was asked about Hunter Biden's exploits, the daily unloading of information that is just, frankly, I think, horrifying for the Biden people because it's revealing more and more that while Joe said repeatedly, especially during the debates of 2020, that he didn't know anything about his son's business dealings, nothing at all. We now know without any question that there were at least 13 different meetings with Hunter Biden's business partners at the White House or the residence of the then Vice President Joe Biden. I want you to stop and think about it. Different visits. Joe says he never, ever discussed business, and I guess he just made Kool-Aid for them when they came. Here's the White House.
Also, relatedly, on the China call, online business records suggest that the First Son still holds a 10% stake in a Chinese investment fund. Is it possible to have basic transparency there on whether he actually divested that stake or not?
So your last questions, I would refer you to his representatives. That's not something that I can speak about from here at the podium. On your
How come you couldn't? I mean, it was a simple question that involves the sitting president. That's who you work for. Might ought to look at your paycheck, see who it comes from. Actually, it comes from all of us. We pay it. And we really would love to have some answers to some of these questions because I think Americans deserve to know. Well, apparently Americans are not going to get to know because there is one answer that Karine Jean-Pierre repeatedly has for us, about the only one. And I'll give you just a little sample of how she responds.
I don't have anything. 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 I just don't have anything. I don't have anything. We don't have anything. I just don't have anything. Don't have anything. So I don't have anything. 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 I just don't have anything. I just don't have anything. I don't have anything. Again, I don't have anything. I don't have anything.
2 hours later.
So I don't have anything. We don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. So I just don't have anything. I don't have anything.
You don't have anything. That's the problem. Karine, you don't have anything. And that's the frustration. But you know who doesn't seem to be that frustrated? The reporters in that press room.
Yeah.
There seems to be one reporter, and not just because he's on Fox, but Peter Doocy from Fox asked, and they're not confrontational questions, and he's not like Jim Acosta, who was a jerk. He actually asked honest questions, and he takes the words of the White House. And he says, this is what you said. Now this is what you're saying that's different. Which is it? And they act like, oh, that's just a Republican talking point. No, that's a legitimate question. Nobody else in that room is asking questions of this White House. Right. And it just is unbelievable.
Well, you know what the answer's going to be. She don't have anything.
Don't have anything. Don't have anything.
Oh, we've got a super chat, Gov. This is great.
So you got something.
I got something.
You got something.
I got
There
something.
you go. There you go.
Jane Eiling is asking, can we see the puppies soon, even in a pic?
Of course you can.
Of course.
Ask and you shall receive. I think we have a picture of Gumbo and Bandit. Oh, they're what? Oh, you
they want it on your phone.
Oh, I thought you guys had pictures.
Yeah, I
Let
can
me
go
dig one up.
Oh,
I am so
now?
sorry. I've had a lot of pictures since then. Here's one. This is from them hanging out at the kennel. Now, can you see that?
Oh, look, yes, you can.
Yeah. See, I've been gone for most of the month of July, and they have been at dog camp playing, and I will get to see them tomorrow, and I cannot wait.
Yes. Wonder what kind of attitude they'll have coming home.
Well, they better have a good one. I've got a really anxious one because, you know, I just hope they remember
who you are?
Yeah.
Ah, they will.
I think they will.
All right, Governor. Valerie Walker is asking, this is a great question, what canned goods are good to stock up for in a recession? They're cheap, but nutritious?
Simple answer is beans and rice, and I'm not kidding. We've got I can't even imagine how many pounds of both beans and rice. First of all, if you put them in a good sealed container, or you can even keep them in the freezer, they will last for years. There's great protein in beans, and rice is a great staple with good caloric content. Easy to cook. All you got to do is put some water on a boil, and bang, you got beans and rice. Throw a little Louisiana hot sauce on it, and what else do you need?
So there you go. All right, Karen Cronin writing today, Governor Huckabee, please tell us what you think about Pelosi's rambling and gesticulating. It's embarrassing and worse than usual. Hitting the sauce, or does she have a serious neuro issue?
Well, I'm no doctor, nor do I play one on television, so I shall not try to diagnose Miss Pelosi as to what's wrong with her vocal idiosyncrasies. But I certainly think that there are some ethical questions that she and her husband ought to be answering about insider stock trading on chip stock. That's a little troubling, because right about the time that Congress is getting rid of the vote on a major issue involving computer chips, her husband buys a fortune of them. Now, you know, if anybody can't see how that smells,
right.
Look, Martha Stewart went to prison for less than that, much less than that.
Right.
And whatever you think of Martha Stewart, I don't think she was influencing Congress at all. She was not a public figure. So this is, again, a responsible press would be all over Nancy Pelosi like a bunch of ticks on a Boy Scout coming out of a camp. But no, we're not going to ask those questions because we don't push the people on the left to the same standards. They just don't.
Absolutely.
What else?
Got to remind everybody to,
Yep.
of course, to smash that like button there. Don't forget to subscribe because we want you to be notified. Hit that notification bell so that you can join us next time when we're here on a Friday afternoon hanging out with you and with the governor. All right, got to ask this question. It's on a lot of folks' mind. We talk about this every single week, it seems. But Christopher Young wants to know, do you think that DeSantis will run for president in 2024? Make America Florida. Isn't that great?
Well, that'd be better than making America California, because Gavin Newsom looks like he's going to run. I mean, the honest answer that I have is I don't know. Last week we had Dick Morris on the show. Dick is convinced Donald Trump will run, and if he runs, he will win. It very well could be right. Many people have speculated that even if Trump runs, DeSantis will run. And, I mean, it's possible. And he may be doing it because he's preparing and setting himself up for the next cycle, should Trump run and win. There's always the risk. The upside is that you become a national political figure, that you could position yourself to be the heir apparent to the nomination. The downside is it could end up imploding, and you could become the person who will never get the nomination. Just depends. Look, politics is all about risk. If you aren't willing to take a risk, you'll never be in politics. I can speak to that from my own personal experiences. And you don't know how it's going to turn out. And part of the reason you don't is because the way the media plays the election has a whole lot to do with whether a candidate can get somewhere, whether there's any traction. If you're ignored by the media, then I don't care what your platform is and how intelligent your positions are and how much they would transform America. Nobody knows about them. If somebody else comes along and the media decides, hey, we're going to give them all the attention, there's nothing you can do but stand back and watch. Yeah. And that's the risk you take.
Right. Well, I know from a personal situation, my own Florida family who love DeSantis, they're trying to hold on tight to him.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, no, you can't run, you can't run. So it's an interesting time. David Hockett is writing today, Gov, do you think the DOJ will actually have the goods to charge Trump or his allies? Or do you think that Garland is just starting to feel the political pressure to do something?
Well, I think he feels the pressure, but I think they very well might try. And I think it's insane that they would, because I don't believe that there's any basis for criminal charges. That doesn't mean they won't do it. And part of the reason they might do it is because if they do any charges, it will happen in the District of Columbia, which is 80% Democrat, which the jury pool there means that a Democrat will never get convicted and a Republican always will. That's how that'll work. So unless Trump was able to get a change of venue and maybe take this to Boca Raton or West Palm, it's anybody's guess how the whole thing could go. Hey, I want us to play this last clip of the day from Rachel Walensky. She's the head of CDC. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised by this, but she basically admits that the monkeypox virus is pretty much associated exclusively within the people who have homosexual sex. Watch.
We do have seen now 2 cases that have occurred in children. Both of those children are traced back to individuals who come from the men who have sex with men community, the gay men community. And so when we have seen those cases in children, they have generally been what I call adjacent to the community most at risk. I should also mention, importantly, those children are doing well.
Thank you for that update. One more monkey.
Yeah, you could tell she did not really want to say that because that's politically incorrect. And it is saying what is scientifically a fact, that this disease transmits among almost exclusively people who are practicing same-sex sexual activity. And that's not very comfortable for people to admit. We want to remind you again, please leave your questions in the comments section, even after we're off air from the live stream. But be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. As always, we're so glad that you have joined us for today, and we hope you will watch the show tomorrow night. And here's the reason why.
This week on Huckabee, Dr. Carol Swain's Countercultural Living. Hilarious news stories on In Case You Missed It.
The record for the largest display of nuts is still in Congress.
The spellbinding magic of Nick Comas. In the Kitchen with Miami chef Adrian Calvo. And the heavenly soprano voice of Laura Breton. Watch Huckabee on Saturday at 8, 7 Central, and again on Sunday at 9, 8 Central, right here on TBN.